All right, hello. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
My name is Irwin Mena. I'm the board president of the Filipino American National Historical Society Museum. It's the only Filipino American museum in the country.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you got connected to this work and the museum?
I was part of the first Filipino Weekend in Delano. I'm born and raised in Delano in a camp, so I lived amongst the manongs. So how fitting that this park here is named the Manongs Park. It's a unity park.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you remember growing up in the camp? What stood out to you during that time?
Yeah, it was really interesting because when I was growing up, we lived in the camps and so we were sort of looked down on. And when we were growing up, the growers they owned your job, your house, and if you think about it, they were on the board of education, so they owned your mind. And so growing up, we kind of made it to my parents. They scaffolded us by giving us encyclopedias and going to the library. So we had an outside look of what outside the camp. And however, living amongst the manongs, you also got a feel for how they perceive things. And they were of a generation that were discriminated against, and they were the lowest of all lows. One of the jokes that we used to say is we were so low that we had to look up to see down. So I remember that, and I remember that even though that you were kind of looked down on, the manongs never gave up on their self-respect and their dignity. So that was really important. That was one of the things that it took me back, that people would totally mistreat them, and it was like, yeah, but we're still here.
Can you tell me a little bit about what today means for you in terms of like the Larry Itliong park dedication?
Well, for years we were perceived upon as being less than So what this means is that there's a lot of progress. A lot of the fight that happened in 1965. Yes, what it meant to me was to trust but verify, and always continuously improve it and try and be better. And that's what they told us, is that make yourself relevant by going to school. And that was one of the most important things. That as we were growing up, they would always ask us, how was school? And even as I went away to college, my dad would ask me that. And I showed him this Carlos Bulosan book. And I said, Dad, I'm reading this book on Carlos Bulosan. And he said, oh, I knew his brother. And I thought, wait a minute, everybody knows his brother. And instead of asking how he knew his brother, I went and I just moved along and hung out with my friends. But 45 years later, when I was researching his Congressional Gold Medal, I looked and saw on his citizenship papers was Aurelio Bulosan had signed off as his witness. So he really knew it, and I just kicked myself. I should have asked.
What do you hope future generations will remember about today and this part of history?
I think that they should understand that these gentlemen, this manong generation, Larry Itliong, they sacrificed a whole lot so we could have the freedoms that we could just go in online and we can click and we can get our master's degrees, we get our doctor's degrees. But in those days, we had counselors telling us, people like you don't go to college, even though my brothers and sisters were already going to college. So my message to them is take advantage and always learn and question, because a lot of times something looks black and white and it's not.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you love about being Filipino American and the work that you're doing, especially with the museum?
What I really love about it is you can feel the spirit here. It's called Bayanihan spirit. It's all about community. If you just kind of close your eyes and kind of feel what you're feeling is, Bayanihan means community and a community lifting up each individual. So that's the feeling that I get, the love I get from this. And one of the feelings that I also get is that knowing that maybe one kid will take this. You might have another Rob Bonta, you might have another Barack Obama out there saying, hey, you know what, I could do that. You know, somebody like that.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share about, you know, who you are, your history, or what today means?
Well, yeah, I'd like to kind of call the youth out and say, hey, you know, there's this history. History is not just the past. It's also inclusive of the present and also the future. So if you don't know your past, in the future, you'll make those same mistakes. And I'm calling the youth out to understand that and not to just glaze over it. It's a challenge.
How would you what advice would you impart what advice would you impart on the youth about preserving their history?
I would say, you know, if it's not now, the curiosity will be there. So there'll be a time continuum of when your curiosity is, but always ask. I mean, the vehicle that you should ask is go see your grandma, go see your mom and dad, and talk about your family tree, because your family tree will show you where you guys have been. And so my advice would be to talk to their grandparents. Okay. Good. Yeah, man.